Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
I want to ask a question. I don't know the exact percentage or answer to this, so maybe somebody else can help me. What is the percentage of descendants of African slaves in the United States of America?
92%.
Does anybody agree or disagree with that?
About 90% of people from African American enslaved, about 8% are African immigrants.
Yeah, it's about 80%.
So the vast majority of us are descendants of slaves that came from Africa.
They came from Africa.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
So since we're talking facts, the fact is we're African. Nobody can give me a date or a time when we stopped being African. Nobody can tell me where the knowledge came from that we obtained when we were in Africa that brought over to America. So that's the hot gates for me. If we can't even go forward if we can't have a reasonable discussion based on facts.
Exactly.
We are Africans. So if you argue with me on that, I can't really listen to anything you got to say because that means you're just denying the truth.
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I know where you're going. I said last time that blacks in America are United States citizens, first and most. Where are they going to go without their blue passport? And why would they give it up anyway? You have blacks in this country who have you have blacks in this country who have put a lot into this country, and they expect to get it out. So, no, I don't disagree that blacks in this country are not descendants of Africa. Some of them have descendancy that goes back to Europe, too.
Well,
that's their argument.
The thing about it is
not mine.
This is the thing about it. It's not up to me. The onus is not on me to prove that someone is African. The onus is on them to prove that they're not. So this whole, before they were talking about, you want to make people African. I'm not making. That's like saying that if a cat was trained to be a dog, I'm trying to make the cat into a cat by telling it that it's a fucking cat.
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? So we have to first acknowledge what is the reality. Yeah, we're citizens. We live in the United States, but we're not Americans. We're not treated like you got a black man that's American, that's the president of the United States, and this guy gets no respect. No respect.
Yeah, that's something.
They don't even care about the title. Before it used to be that they cared more about the title of the person who was the president. Now that's out the window.
And that's something that we all, and I agree with the brother as it relates to the whole, what do you claim for yourself, because even with that, that's my claim spiritually of what I said. But if somebody asks me, I always say I'm African. I'm an African. I always quote Brother Mount. I'm an African who happens to be in America. Yes, we can have a passport. Yes, you can say you can say we citizens. You can say this. You can say that about where we are. I, quite frankly, disagree because the realities of that doesn't show that.
Did anybody ever see that movie, Dragon, the Bruce Lee story?
Yep. Yeah.
There was a scene in there that was so perfect for what we're talking about right now.
Yep.
Bruce Lee was with his wife.
Man, I'm a cheeky man. Remember that part? Yeah.
He was with his wife's mother, and they were talking about children, and they said, well, if you have babies, what will they be? They won't be Chinese. They won't be American. He said, but they will be American. I'm American. And she said, you're not American. You're an American citizen.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's it in a nutshell. When you say American, you're talking about white man, white woman. Across the globe, everybody acknowledges that that's what's an American. That's a real American. We just live here. And if you don't believe it, just look at how we're treated. Look at how we are in this socially, economically, and politically within this country. So this whole thing about claiming America, first of all, I have a question. This gets back to the discussion we were having earlier. All of us live in certain states, and we work in those states, and we live in those states or whatever. Did any of those states ask us what our religion was, or what were the prerequisites for you to participate in that state commerce? No state asked you any of that shit. They don't care about it. We worried about shit that nobody gives a fuck about because they control the infrastructure and the context that we live in. So all they care is that we are participating. As long as you participate, you can be whatever the hell you want to be. And I'm wondering, when are we going to get the picture?
See, it's easy. It's easy to try to get. All right, let's put it like this. Okay, I'm African. We all here African. Now what?
Are you an African?
That right there is
do your bloodline go all the way back to Africa, brother? Are you an African?
Brother, if you read...
Are you an African?
You asked me a question.
Do your bloodline go all the way back to Africa, brother? Are you an African?
Brother, if you read...
Are you an African?
You asked me a question.
Do your bloodline go all the way back to Africa, brother? Are you an African?
Brother, if you read...
Continue, brothers. We just had to put that one in there.
But now what? First of all, that's a big deal right there. Just to, if we ever admitted that we were African, that's the beginning of the end for white supremacy. Now what? Well, let me tell you now what. First of all, it connects you culturally to a land. John Henry Clark said that when you mention a people's name, it should simultaneously connect them to land and culture. It also widens
would
your
it be
world
correct if
view.
you said land, history, and culture? But go ahead.
Land, history, and culture. And it also widens your world view. Because if you're just concerned about what's going on here in America and Africa, just them Africans over there, most of us don't have a clue what's happening on the continent. Politically, socially, economically. We don't see how anything relates to us because we're distant from that. It means absolutely nothing. So the Chinese and everybody else, every other ethnic group can carve that land up, our homeland, our motherland up, and we have no connection to it. No interest whatsoever.
Well, you got Africans in the diaspora who don't seem to have any interest in it neither. You got 5,000 African-American business people doing business in Ghana, so I wouldn't say that. And here's another point. It doesn't take the whole entire population to get anything. It takes people with like-mindedness, the former group, former cartel, as I like to say, and go ahead and do what you want to do.
You're preaching to the choir right now.
Well, I don't go to church.
That's been my point since day one.
Like-minded people.
And once you own your schools, guess what you do? You start teaching nationalism in those schools. That's what we do. That's what I do. Hey, I took red, black, and green flags in the classrooms. I was telling children that they're of their African history. Guess what? I go back 3 years and flags gone.
And another fact is that Muslim is not no nationality. We need to stop. We need to stop identifying with some spiritual belief systems. That's what represents us. You can be African and be Muslim. You can be African and be Hebrew Israelite. You can be African and be Christian. That land that you come from, you can be anything you want to be. You can be atheist. But don't deny where you come from. And then think that we're going to have something functional. Not going to happen. If we can't acknowledge that simple truth, and I don't understand what the freaking argument is about. I really don't.
Brother, I don't understand what your persuasion is. I don't know why you trying to persuade. I mean, I feel like you got a right to do what you want.
I'm not trying to persuade anybody of anything.
Well, you must be. When people say
no,
what they are and what they're not, what's going on?
No, I'm not trying to persuade anyone of anything. What I'm trying to do is just simply state a fact. And this fact is being disputed.
Well, every human being on the earth, every human being on earth began in Africa.
I don't have to persuade you that it's 4.
You know, in African Center School, we don't tell kids that 2 + 2 is 4. We teach them why it is 4.
It's 4 regardless.
You won't go that.
You won't but you have to conclude that it's 4. This is semantics we're doing now. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, it is. That's because that's the way we teach in our schools.
Under what scenario is 2 plus 2 not 4?
-2, +2.
I said 2 plus 2. Under what scenario is 2 plus 2 not 4? See, this is game. Why are we even playing this game?
Well, but here's the point. At least we do have schools. Wait a minute. At least we do have schools that teach children like we want to. The Council of Black Institution. CB.
What we are you talking about?
CB. Council of Independent Black Institution. One school here, Frederick Douglass, a member of that organization since the 70s. Marcus Garvey Academy on Slauson Avenue in South Central L.A.
Okay.
Built by blacks. Wait a minute. Paid for.
Choir.
Wait a minute. Now I'm not teaching you because we got people on here who probably don't know about this. The school was paid for and built by black people from the ground up.
Is there somebody on the phone that doesn't think we should have black schools?
Is there somebody on the phone who didn't know about Marcus Garvey on Slauson Avenue?
That's a prerequisite. You got to have schools,
Okay, there's a lot of schools that I don't know what avenue they're on because I live in New York City. What's the point? But I don't deny that we should have black schools.
The point is because you got some people that don't know.
Okay, but I'm not arguing that we shouldn't have black schools. I'm with you in that regard. So I don't understand what the point is.
So anyway, as I was saying, keeping in line with your program, no, I think that, as I said before, we have meetings, we leave religion and guns at the door. And we talk about what people want. Hey, we can have a conference across the street talking about, and it goes on, African history. You can have one across the street on blacks empowering themselves economically. And guess which one is going to be filled? You got to go to give people what they want. And not saying that they don't want it, but there's priorities for reasons that, that they can't control.
I don't make a disconnection between the two, honestly. I don't see why it's got to be one or the other. Because who you are and where you come from will definitely...
You would make a connection when you're sitting up in a place that's empty and the place across the street is full.
Who you are is relevant to what you do. If it was that easy, we would have been out of this situation a long time ago. We've been in America for how long? I notice all of these philosophies and things ain't been panning out quite the way that people say they should have panned out.
Well, some people here, some blacks in America are doing very good now.
Yeah, there were some Jews that were doing quite good in Germany.
Well, we're not talking. What does that got to do with blacks in America?
Well, you're talking about a small percentage of people lining their pockets up while the vast majority of them are in destitute?
Well,
what is the point?
Everybody can't be rich in a society, now can they? Everybody can't be the boss.
So there's really nothing to fix then. Everything is just the way it is. It's fine the way that it is. As long as there's a few people making some money,
it's not as fine the way it is because you got foreigners in your community continue to extract wealth.
Yeah, but
so it couldn't be now. It could not be fine the way it is.
Bianchi, you missed his point. All his preachers. There is no such thing as a black community. There's areas where black people congregate.
Well, let's call it black neighborhoods then.
Well, yeah, but that's not a community. If you don't control the social, economic, political infrastructure of an area, let me give you an example. Black people, we moved out to Los Angeles, right? The reason why we came out there because basically there was people say, oh, I heard there's jobs out there and everything, and we come flooding out there. But the white people controlled all the business, everything out there, and they exploited us for generations. Same thing with Oakland, same thing with Chicago, everything. The only place black people really had an upper hand to some extent was in Harlem, to some extent. But for the most part, every last single northern city you see, Jews for the most part own the real estate. We bought the old homes that white people were moving out of, and we flooded them up and everything like that. But the people still hold the mortgage note. The people still hold the banks. The people still hold all the real estate. And basically the tax base and everything like that goes towards white infrastructure. And all we are is the outline. There's no independent black capital financing black areas. There's no black municipal bonds that we control, that we finance. You don't have black colleges financing the municipal bond of Gary, Indiana. and everything by which we could basically pay police, fire, and we'd be independent and self-sufficient in America. It's never happened. Detroit, we thought our numbers could do justice to us. It did not happen. White people still control Red Detroit, like Black Detroit, like in the plantation. White people control all the wealth of the city, all the taxation, the revenue, everything goes to white and through white hands, all the contractors. You go to any black city area right now, who's coming in there, even in public housing? Who's coming in and putting the roofs on? Who's coming in and putting the, laying the pipes down? Who's coming there laying electrical wires out? It ain't black unions. It ain't black contractors. So how can you call it anything a black community? That word should not come out of anybody's mouth. You know, there's no black communities.
That's just like the conscious community.
The Italians control everything in that area.
Yep, that's just like the conscious community. There is no conscious community. There's no community. I can't put it in my GPS, it don't exist.
Brother, what's your name? That me and you always had this argument about Africa. Holla. Let me tell you. See, I'm older than you. And if I see you going in the wrong way, I'm not going to stand back and at least tell you, say, man, you need to look at this again. Because I want you to be successful in what you do. I see too many failures. When I see success, it brings tears to my eyes. Bring tears to my eyes, will you? Hold that card. Don't throw that card down. It's a time to throw it down, but in the beginning, it's not the time.
Alrighty. I understand.
Welcome, Brother Bianchi. Baba Bianchi, we received that.
And actually, I agree with him to a certain extent. But I think he thinks I'm trying to convince the masses, and I'm not really interested in trying to convince the masses. The masses are going to come once something is built.
Yeah, once they start seeing
what I have an issue with
and everything like that, and they see the blueprints, they're like,
what I have
wow.
an issue with is if we're going to have people at the administrative level and at the think tank level who are telling me that we don't have nothing to do with Africa, I got a problem with you.
Yeah, those people we can't have at the administration level. No. You know, everybody that's on the administration level has to be on that page. We're Africans first.